I forgave her, sincerely. I sat across from her, listened attentively, broke down, and sighed with relief. However, that was only the beginning. A month later, like a bolt from the blue, I found photos on her laptop that made me shudder. Her, in lace lingerie, like a seductive dream, next to my boss, the very man I shook hands with every morning, unaware of the storm brewing. My name is Daniel. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Chicago, working in logistics. The most ordinary life, 9 to 5 routine, traffic jams on the way home, quiet dinners, rare and listless conversations about the day. My wife is Claire, 32 years old, a freelance graphic designer, logos, business cards, small jobs. No children yet, although we've discussed it. There was always a reason why now is not the right time. Loans, stress, maybe later. We lived quietly and measuredly, like two rivers flowing in parallel. No dramas or upheavals. There was no particular passion, but no boredom either. I thought it was normal. Isn't peace and quiet also a kind of happiness? I found out about the first affair myself. That evening, she came home in tears. She sat across from me, her hands shaking like autumn leaves in the wind. Dan, I did something stupid. What happened? I asked, feeling anxiety begin to grip my heart. It was a one time thing, a client. I felt invisible. He said I was beautiful. I didn't think. You cheated on me? The words escaped my lips like a painful groan. She nodded, and at that moment the world around me stopped. The air seemed to freeze, turning into an icy block. I hate myself for it, she whispered like a ghost. I wanted to tell you right away. I feel bad. And I believed her, not because I was weak, but because I loved her. Or maybe because I didn't want to start all over again, to destroy what we had built for years. So I forgave her. We started seeing a therapist, trying to start with a clean slate, like artists painting a new picture. Dinners at restaurants, board games, walks under the moon, and even phone free nights once a week. Claire was trying, or at least that's what it seemed to me. She didn't hide anything anymore. She took calls next to me. Sometimes she even hugged me completely unexpectedly. I started to believe again, slowly but surely. I gave her a chance at redemption. Because damn it, if love isn't a chance, then what is? Month passed. At first, I noticed only subtle signs, small, seemingly insignificant hints. She started laughing too often while looking at the screen of her phone. It's a meme, man, she would say. You wouldn't understand. But I felt that something more was hidden behind these words. Suddenly, she needed inspiration late at night. How ironic, because before she always found it next to me. I'm going to a coffee shop. I can draw better there. Can I give you a ride? I offered, wanting to spend at least a little time with her. No, no, I'll get a ride. You have to get up early. And again, I felt that chill, not anger, not open hostility, just a wall, an insurmountable barrier that had arisen between us. She was there, but as if behind glass, like a beautiful painting in a museum that you can't touch. I brushed these thoughts aside, trying to convince myself otherwise. Maybe I'm just paranoid, I said to myself. You forgave her. Everything is fine. Don't ruin it. But doubts gnawed at me from within, like worms. I tried to believe in the good, that our love was still alive. I made her breakfast. I gave her flowers. I tried to bring back the spark that once burned between us. I started working from home more often, to be closer, but even that didn't help. And still, I felt superfluous, as if I had been replaced by someone else. One evening, she went to take a shower. Her laptop was left open on the table. I wasn't looking for anything, I swear, but curiosity got the better of me. But in the corner of the screen, a notification popped up. Telegram, TM, can't stop thinking about it. I froze, struck as if by lightning. I clicked on it. A chat opened. And there it was. A photograph, Claire, in lingerie, in our bedroom. Caption, do you like this? Answer, God, Claire, you're driving me crazy. When is our next coffee date? I scrolled up. You're my escape. I hate seeing you with him, as if you belong to someone else. If we could just disappear. My heart pounded wildly in my ears, and then it dropped to my heels. The name in the profile, T. I immediately understood. Thomas More, my boss. 42 years old, married, 3 children, an office 5 feet from mine. The guy who praised me in front of the whole team, a hypocrite. The man I helped prepare for presentations, the one who always asked, "How's your beautiful wife, still drawing?" I slammed the laptop shut. I sat down and just sat there in complete stupor. Not just silence in my head, but a deafening ringing, as if someone had shot point blank, but not in the heart, but in trust. The photos and words didn't cause shock, but the realization of the situation repeating crushed me. Like a bolt from the blue, the understanding that this time not only she was involved, but also him, wife and boss. In the next room, water was gurgling in the shower, Claire was carelessly humming something, and one question froze in my head. What now? Scream? Destroy everything? Leave? My hand reached for the phone, and now all the evidence in the form of screenshots was sent to cloud storage. Going out into the cold March night, I didn't notice cars, lights, or passers-by. Only the phrases echoed. You are my escape. Coffee meeting. She really went to that coffee shop every Friday at 11, claiming that it's better to work there, and I believed her. Returning home, I found her on the couch in pajamas. Where did you go? She asked. I just needed some air, I replied. Is everything okay? She asked. I nodded, although a storm was raging in my soul, but I was not ready to speak. Not yet time. I lay down next to her, and she snuggled up, as if nothing had happened, as if an hour ago she had not sent intimate photos to another man. In the morning, I went to work earlier than usual. Thomas was late, usually appearing at 8:30, but that day, almost at 9, just when Claire usually went for fabrics. He came in cheerful with coffee in his hand. Dan, how was your evening? He asked. Good, yours, I replied. Great, eventful, he replied. I felt sick. Before me stood a man sleeping with my wife, still smiling, giving compliments and shaking my hand. For the next 3 days, I collected evidence, chat logs, screenshots, photos. I checked their schedules. Her girls' nights coincided with his off-site meetings, and her photo shoots in the park with his hours of working from home. As you will find out later, all the evidence pointed to their secret affair. They were carefree, as if they were not afraid of being caught, because, they reasoned, I had already forgiven her once, hadn't I? Couldn't I swallow it again? However, as you will find out later, everything turned out differently. It was Friday evening. I was sitting across from her at the kitchen table. She was slicing tomatoes. Her movements were slow and deliberate. Claire, I asked, breaking the silence, can I ask you something? Of course, she replied, without looking up. If you cheated on me again, would you tell me? My question hung in the air. She froze, as if she had been doused with ice water. She didn't even turn around, continuing to hold the knife in her hand. Dan, what are you talking about? There was incomprehension in her voice. I'm serious. Would you tell me? I insisted. No, was her quiet answer. Why? I asked, trying to understand her logic. Because I wouldn't want to lose you, she explained, finally turning to me. I slowly took out my phone, put it on the table like a weapon. An open chat with Thomas, photographs, dates, messages, everything was on display. She stared at the screen, her gaze full of horror. She went pale in spots. What is this? She whispered, her voice trembling. This is your coffee shop, I stated, a fact that she could not deny. She said nothing. Tears appeared in her eyes, ready to flow like a stream. Say something, I asked, wanting to hear some explanation. It was just flirting, she squeezed out, as if it could change anything. Really? I asked sarcastically. We were just texting. She began to justify herself. So you went to his house to text, I interrupted her, not letting her finish. She burst into tears, her shoulders shaking with sobs. I didn't want to. He said I was special, that he admired me. She justified herself as if it could change the situation. He's married, 3 children, I reminded her of reality. I know, she whispered in response. And you knew he was my boss, I added, feeling anger rising inside me. Yes, she answered barely audibly. I stood up, determined. I can't. Not again. The second time is not a mistake. It's a choice, I declared, drawing a line. She rushed to me, trying to hold me back. Please, don't leave. I was confused. I thought you didn't love me anymore. She begged, but her words no longer mattered. I looked into her tear-filled eyes and felt nothing. No anger, no grief, only numbness, as if something inside me had died. I'm leaving, I said, and it was a final decision. Where are you going? She asked, her voice full of despair. Away from both of you, I replied, no longer wanting to stay in this place. I packed a bag, a laptop, a few shirts, my toothbrush, a pair of jeans. Bella, she began, trying to manipulate me. There is no baby, Claire. Only you and me. I interrupted her, not letting her play that card. Won't you give me another chance? She asked, hoping for a miracle. I already gave you one, I replied, and there was not a drop of doubt in my words. And I closed the door behind me, leaving her alone in tears. That's when I realized not everything can be fixed. Not every betrayal is an invitation to start all over again. Sometimes people open your eyes to your true worth, and you are faced with a choice: accept this revelation or decisively leave. As you will find out later, I chose the second path, and I left quietly, without unnecessary words, without screams and slamming doors. I just disappeared, dissolved into the air, and never returned. Forgiving betrayal a second time is no longer kindness, but a real betrayal of oneself. I spent the first night after that in a motel, a cheap room, permeated with the smell of cleaning products, and an air conditioner humming like a tractor created an atmosphere of solitude. However, this is just the beginning of my new life. I slept soundly, without dreams or thoughts, immersed in absolute silence. The next morning, I walked into the office. Thomas, as always, was sitting in his glass office like a king on a throne. An impeccably ironed shirt, a confident smile, a polite tone. Dan, good morning, he greeted me. I walked past him without uttering a word. I sat down at my desk and opened a text editor, and I typed a letter of resignation. I am requesting to be dismissed at my own request with immediate effect. Voluntary resignation. I printed it, signed it, and took it to HR. No explanations, no reproaches, just a clean end to the chapter. You won't believe what happens next. On the way out of the office, I looked into Thomas's office and left the statement on his desk. He rushed after me. What is this? My resignation. Is this because of the promotion? No, it's because of you and Claire. His face turned pale. Listen, no need, don't say a word. I didn't want it to happen this way. Oh, really, Thomas? And how did you want it to happen? He fell silent as if he had swallowed water. I looked him straight in the eye. You didn't just sleep with my wife, you disrespected me as a man, as a person, and as your employee. But what's even worse, you thought I wouldn't find out. You thought I would just swallow it. I'm not going to do that. I'm leaving. And I left. The following week seemed like a movie without a script. I spent the night on a friend's couch, rented random apartments on Airbnb, and even slept in my car a couple of times. Immersed in silence, I began my search for a new job, without rushing and without panicking. A plan was brewing inside me. First, to destroy the old version of myself, as if burning the past to the ground, and then, like a phoenix, to rise from the ashes. Suddenly, like a bolt from the blue, a message came from Claire. I made a mistake, she wrote, and there was bitterness of realization in these words. He left me, she continued, as if confessing her sins. I'm all alone. There was despair and a plea for help in her voice, but I remained silent, like a stone statue, incapable of either sympathy or forgiveness. On the 10th day, her silence was interrupted by another message. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I was too stupid to understand it. However, despite these words, I remained motionless, like a rock, not giving in to any persuasion or confession. A month later, like a reward for patience and perseverance, I received a job offer from a small company. Yes, maybe they paid less here, and the prestige was not the same as before. But here, no one knew my story. No one saw me as that guy who was cheated on by his wife and boss. I was a clean slate, ready for new achievements and new beginnings. I rented a modest apartment in a quiet area where life flowed smoothly and calmly. I bought a used Toyota, which became my faithful companion in new adventures. I signed up for a gym, not to build muscle, but to splash out the pain and resentment so that every drop of sweat flowing down my body would carry away a piece of the past. Every morning, exactly at 6:30, I brewed myself coffee, went to the window, and looked at the awakening world, reminding myself, you survived, which means you're still worth something. 6 months later, as if by cruel irony, I ran into Thomas. It happened in a seedy bar on the outskirts of the city. I was there with colleagues, and he was sitting alone, like an outcast, abandoned by everyone. Disheveled with 3 empty glasses of whiskey in front of him, he looked pathetic and lost. He looked up and blinked, as if he had seen a ghost. Dan, he whispered, as if not believing his eyes. Hello, I replied, remaining calm and collected. You look better than me, he admitted bitterly. I am better, I replied, not hiding my satisfaction. He gave a dry laugh, in which irony and self-flagellation could be heard. Claire said you would never forgive, he said, as if trying to justify his actions. And you thought she would forgive you? I asked, and there was reproach in my voice. He looked away, unable to withstand my gaze. My wife left. The children don't want to talk to me. Claire disappeared, he confessed, as if splashing the burden of his suffering on me. I nodded, expressing neither sympathy nor gloating. If I could turn back time, he began, as if hoping for a miracle. No, Thomas, I interrupted him. You would just become more inventive next time. He had nothing to answer. I stood up, ready to leave. Take care of yourself, or at least of those who are still with you, I said, and there was something like a farewell in my voice, and I left, leaving him alone with his thoughts and regrets. Almost 2 years have passed. My life is simple and uncomplicated. Breakfast alone, music in headphones, occasional meetings with friends over a beer. Sometimes I think trust is like porcelain. Break something once, you can glue it together, bring it back to life like a phoenix from the ashes. But break it twice, and all that's left is just a miserable pile of dust, the ashes of past greatness. The moral of this story is, I forgave the woman, gave her a second chance, as if releasing a bird from a cage. And she took advantage of this chance to hurt me even deeper, to strike me in the heart, using the only person I trusted professionally. It was a stab in the back, betrayal in its purest form. And it wasn't just about a trivial affair or a fleeting fling as you might think. It was about the lie she wore, like a skillfully sewn dress, hiding her true essence. A lie that poisoned everything around with its venomous breath. It was about the intimacy that suddenly became alien, like a cold stone from which a grave cold emanated, as if all the light and warmth suddenly disappeared, leaving only emptiness and disappointment. It was about how the closest people can suddenly turn into strangers, into aliens, as if from another world, with whom you have nothing to do anymore. You won't believe how quickly illusions crumble. Now? Now I no longer collect broken fragments. I don't try to glue together what can no longer be restored. There is no point in wasting time on what is doomed. I'm rebuilding from scratch, building my own world brick by brick, slowly but surely, without illusions, without self-deception. No rose-tinted glasses through which the world seems better than it really is. I look at things soberly, without embellishment, and I never give second chances to those who abused the first, who trampled my kindness and trust like a dirty boot. This is my lesson, and I have learned it forever.